All right, welcome back to the Draft Podcast, a proud member of the Gem City Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, Paul Adamaszek, and we're officially in one of the most important weeks of the draft cycle. That's right, it's Senior Bowl week. The Senior Bowl isn't an all-star game, folks. It's an evaluation environment. The game is secondary. The practices are the main focus. This week is about how players work, how they learn, how they compete, how they process, how they take coaching, how they handle an NFL environment, how they handle talent as good as their own. It's where projection gets stress tested. It's where college good meets NFL average. So no graphics for you folks. I apologize for that. First practices of Senior Bowl week are taking place as we speak. So I prepared a lot of this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but so much of it changes on Monday into Tuesday. There are guys who are listed who like agreed that they were going to come, but they end up dropping out. Then there's guys who show up day one, they do the interviews, and then all of a sudden they tweaked a hamstring, walking back to the hotel room, they're out. So a lot of guys out, a lot of new names in. But everything I have for you tonight is up to date as of this moment. So I spent a lot of furious work in the last hour and a half trying to put this together and make updates to what I have. But before I get to the team previews, before we start name dropping and making top 10 lists, we need to do one thing first. Because if you watch the Senior Bowl like it's a normal football game, you're going to end up watching the wrong stuff. This isn't about the game. This isn't about stats. This isn't about who has 6 catches for 84 yards on a Saturday afternoon. It doesn't matter. The Senior Bowl is not really a game. It's a job interview, and one that happens to be conducted in shoulder pads. And the part that particularly matters, the part that actually matters, the part that turns careers into money is the week leading up to the game. The practices, as we mentioned, the meetings that were taking place last night and this morning's, the one-on-ones, which start literally right now tonight. There's a reason that the Senior Bowl has leaned into the idea that the draft starts in Mobile, because for a lot of players, it does. So let me give you the cheat code. I've got a number of bullet points here that I wanted to hit on before we started talking about anything else. Number one, the first evaluation, the weigh-ins. Before anyone runs a route, before anyone gets down on a three-point stance, scouts and personnel people are doing the oldest scouting trick in the book. They're checking to see if you're built like an NFL player. And I don't mean listed at 6'2". I mean real, measured, official, no more creative writing, heights and weights and hand measurements and ankle circumferences. And the Senior Bowl has treated measurements very seriously, especially in the last couple of years, to the point where weigh-ins and measurements are now handled in controlled, private settings. And that is because teams want accurate and consistent info on players coming into their buildings. And this matters more than people realize, I think, a lot of the time. Because if you're an offensive tackle and you walk in and you're listed at 295, or you come in at 295, but the school's program said that you were 320, now that's not just a number. Were you 320 at the beginning of the season and you've lost 25 pounds? Or did they put you at 320 to make you seem a little bit bigger than you are? That now changes your projection. If you're a corner and you're 175 pounds when everyone assumed 190, now we're talking about durability. We're talking about role. We're talking about whether you're an inside-only guy, whether you can tackle, whether your body can survive the physicality of the NFL. So we talk about traits like it's just physical gifts and highlights. Traits start with the frame. Okay, so that's point number one. Number two, first it's the practice film. Then it's the one-on-ones that are the truth serum. Big emphasis on watching the practices, and that's why I kind of wanted to start this. I was hoping they changed the schedule this year. So they did all the heights and weights in sort of a rolling thing yesterday and started some of the meetings last night. I guess in years past that they had said it had become too tight. The agents really complained that they didn't have enough time with their players because the players were minute by minute by minute scheduled for like 6 days. But I say that to say that the week of practices is the product, in essence. Even teams themselves will tell you this. It's a chance to get their hands on prospects ahead of the draft in an NFL-style practice setting doing real football work. And the reason these one-on-ones matter is because they remove excuses. Live bullets from NFL-caliber athletes also fighting for their football futures, right? It's if you can do the job when everyone in the building knows what's coming, right? And this is why you'll see linemen and pass rushers get paid in Mobile, Alabama. And I bring up again Gray Zabel, who went from a third-round prospect, fourth-round guy, to 18th overall last year because of the work he did at the Senior Bowl. A clean week at the Senior Bowl can change the conversation entirely. Historically, the event has been tied to real stock climbs and positive draft outcomes for small school guys and for prospects who needed to prove that they belonged. So if you're a small school tackle, you either hold up or you don't. If you're an edge with one move, well, now everybody's seen it by Wednesday. Who's able to adjust? Who handles everything thrown at them? To borrow a line from Macho Man Randy Savage, the cream rises to the top. I did not do a great Macho Man, but you got to go back. Just Google Macho Man cream rises to the top. You'll love it. Classic. All right, number three, rather. Scouts are hunting for translatable movement, not college production. This is the practices once again are what give evaluators a controlled environment to compare body types, athletic profiles, and functional movement in a side-by-side setting. Let's get all these NFL caliber athletes together and let's see who actually separates themselves from one another. Can that guard redirect when the pass rusher counter spins? Can a linebacker flip his hips and match in space? This could be a big week for linebackers. Can that corner find the football without panicking? He looked great at his small school. Can he do it against a guy who's 6'4"? And here's the thing. You don't need to win every rep. You just need to show that you belong in the same room. So keep that. Everything has a grain of salt to it this week. Guys who lose a rep poorly, how do they come back? Who was the tackle from Oregon last year who got beat so badly by Mike Green? I felt bad for him. But he ended up going in the second round, and he had a nice year. I believe he started for the Washington Commanders. His name escapes me at the moment, but lost a rep big time, big viral moment, but he came back and quietly had a nice rest of the week. So like, you just got to prove that you belong. Number 4. And this is the part that I wish I had a little more access to. You got to draw on, social media sources. The meetings are where guys quietly win or lose, in the case of some high-profile athletes last year, millions. This is the part that gets ignored because it doesn't go viral. It's impossible to go viral. None of these meetings are recorded, but teams absolutely use this week to meet with players. Interviews have long been a key component of the all-star circuit. And if you want the blunt truth, if you can't handle install or terminology or adjustments or coaching points, if you look lost, teams notice immediately. This week is where coaches will test coachability. Can you take criticism? Can you adjust to new techniques? They will assess your football IQ. They will assess your memory recall. They will assess how accountable you were to your teammates during the season, which will test your maturity. And yes, they will figure out whether guys are full of it. There's a lot of tricks that the evaluators use in these meetings to really get a read on these players. Because at the NFL level, the building doesn't care what your star rating was coming out of high school. An NFL locker room is a workplace. If you can't function as a pro, you get replaced like a temp worker. So when they say the draft starts in Mobile, part of what's meant is this is where teams start to find out whether you're prepared to live and work like a professional. Number 5, competitive temperament is the real currency here. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about edge. And I don't mean edge like the rusher. I mean how you compete. Do you have that dog in you? The Senior Bowl is one of the best places to spot competitive temperament because the environment is built for it. New coaches, new teammates, new scheme, new terminology. You got 5 days to get it in, and you're going against the best guys you've seen all year, and they're all playing for their collective futures. It's a high-pressure situation. And what the NFL is looking for, some dudes show up like it's vacation, just another all-star game, and other dudes show up like, I'm here to take someone's job. And NFL teams are addicted to the second guy there. because Sunday football is not kind. It's not patient. It's not a merit badge. It's not a ceremony. If you don't bring it, you get exposed and replaced. So scouts watch body language like hawks. How do they respond after losing a rep? Do they ask questions? Do they take coaching? Do they run to the next rep, or do they drift after wins and after losses? Are they loud when they win and quiet when they lose? That stuff matters. They're not just judging vibes. These sort of things are predictive to how you will be as an NFL, as a guy on the payroll. Number 6, role acceptance. And I think I put this down with an asterisk. Sneaky separator this week. Something you don't hear often, but some players come into this week with an identity crisis because they've been the guy on their college team and they're now asked to do a different job. They are no longer the guy. A college corner who wants to play outside, but teams see him as a nickel. Perhaps a college safety who wants to be a free safety, but he's really more of a strong safety box defender. College tackle who's been asked to kick inside to guard. Role acceptance. It's part humility. It's part intelligence. You have to be able to last. And teams are watching. Can you embrace what you are and then do it at a high level? Because the fastest way to wash out of the league is clinging to a role you can't win in. And the one example that comes to mind in this instance is a college tackle not being able to move into guard. Tackles get paid a lot more money than guards. They get drafted a lot higher than guards. If a guy who's been a tackle his entire life is asked to move into guard, he's also being asked to make a massive pay cut, in essence. Are you willing to accept that and continue to play as a guard, even if that means, would you rather have a professional career as a guard or wash out as a would-be tackle? It's not everybody has the same answer. Number 7, the game is dessert. Okay, practice is the meal. By the time the game rolls around on Saturday, we've already pretty much had their key questions answered. The game is nice. It's confirmation. It's a few more reps for sure. But the Senior Bowl is widely framed around the important practices during the week in front of NFL coaches and scouts. The game is not where most guys truly separate, but it does have one very interesting aspect. The game obviously reveals gamers. And that's a gene. It's something not everybody possesses, but you talk about the Tim Tebows of the world, man, they're not good in practice. But when the lights are on, some guys are just gamers, and that's why the Senior Bowl is always fun to watch, because every year there are gamers, right? Guy who didn't have a great week, but just took over because they play a different way when people are watching. It's always interesting to see, and it's the last little bit of it's the last note that you write down in the handbook about a guy, gamer. All right, so number 8, this is your how to watch Senior Bowl guide. For offensive linemen, watch anchors and hands. Can they absorb power? Can they refit? Can they recover? For pass rushers, watch the counter moves. Anyone can run the loop. The league pays for that second move. For corners, watch transitions and watch their eyes. Do they panic? Do they find the ball? Can they play in phase with receivers? Sometimes, in a lot of cases, and I'll get to some of these guys later, playing against receivers a lot bigger than they're used to. For linebackers, watch them in space. Can they match? Can they process? Can they tackle without loading up? For receivers and tight ends, watch the separation and watch how they catch. Do they win early? Do they finish through contact? Does the ball always get into their chest? Are they trying to trap it, or do they hands catch it? And when the stuff that doesn't show up on the highlight reels, you gotta look at tempo. You gotta look at urgency. You gotta look how they take coaching, especially the quarterbacks in this game, and how they respond to a losing rep. You're gonna have both kinds throughout the game. One side of the ball is going to win the rep. The other side of the ball is going to lose the rep. How do they do on the upcoming rep? Because that's what the NFL is. It's actually bullying, right? When we start talking about the national team and the American team, and when we start naming guys you need to watch, just remember what this week is and what it is not. This is not about Saturday's box score. This is a 6-day job interview where players either prove they belong or they get labeled as a project. And that's why the draft really does start in Mobile. Now I'm going to start with the team previews, the national team and the American team. And I'll start with just left to right. We'll go with the national team. Here's the overview. Head coach of the national team is going to be Clint Hurt. He is the senior defensive assistant and the defensive line coach from the Philadelphia Eagles. The defensive coordinator is David Overstreet of the Dallas Cowboys. The national team's offensive coordinator will be Jamel Singleton, also of the Philadelphia Eagles. The special teams coordinator is Sam Sewell of the Arizona Cardinals. And the national team will also include coaches from the Cowboys, Commanders, Vikings, Cardinals, Bengals, and Packers. So if you're a fan of any one of those teams, you have coaches working on this side of the roster with these players for 6 days. And I'm going to just kind of do a position overview. I'm not going to name everybody, but just kind of a number of names that I think are sort of like the highlights from each position group on each side. Start with the quarterbacks again on the national team. Sawyer Robertson, talked about him last week. Quarterback, he's number 8 or 9. I think he's a sneaky one to watch this week. We do have heights and weights that came in officially last night and today, so I've updated as many as I could manage before I had to get on here. Came in at 6'3.5", 221 pounds, so a legit size for the position. Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt. This one was interesting. Came in at 5'9" and 7/8", 198 pounds. Not great for Pavia. Loved him as a college quarterback. We'll see how he does against the competition this week. And finally, Cole Payton. Interesting. North Dakota State 1-year starter, dual threat, 6 foot, 2 inches and 3/8, 229 pounds. Scouts interested by this guy. He's got a cannon, and he can run, and he's huge. And he only has 1 year of starting under his belt, so he's the ultimate wild card. And again, I'm not going to name every player from every position. I did the quarterbacks, and I will for the quarterbacks just because I think that group is so important. We talked about him last week, and I think everybody has an eye on him. But I won't name everybody from here on out. Running back room for the national team. They're going to have both Penn State guys, Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. Katron Allen, more the power guy. Nick Singleton, more of the, you can see it, the more fluid athlete, higher top speed, does a nice job of catching the ball out of the backfield. What I found interesting was they came in nearly identical in size. Katron Allen at 5'11 and 1/8, 220 pounds. Singleton at 6 foot even, 221 pounds. So Singleton's got him by 7/8 of an inch and a pound. Also on that roster, we're going to see Jamari Taylor, small school guy, moved to Virginia, transferred to Virginia for his last year, 5'9" and 1/8 inch, 205 pounds, very explosive. Getting an opportunity against some legit competition. Wide receiver room is going to be interesting. Trey Wallace out of Ole Miss had a nice year, 5'11 and 5/8, 194 pounds officially. Went for 900 yards and 4 touchdowns in 2025. He was at Penn State transfer who really turned up Ole Miss's offense this season, really helped out Trinidad Chambliss, and they had a nice season. Caleb Douglas and Reggie Virgil, both those guys from Texas Tech, combined for 1,500 yards and 13 touchdowns for the Red Raiders. Caleb Douglas at 6'3.25", Reggie Virgil at 6'2" and 3/8. Virgil's at 188 pounds. Douglas weighed in at 198. So a couple of good-sized dudes, good production. They'll be in a good wide receiver room. The tight end room on this side for the national team, Justin Joly, NC State, UConn transfer, 6'3", 251 pounds. This is probably the best slot tight end. Maybe not a great blocker, but a dependable red zone target, proven production history. Transfer from, like I said, I think it was UConn before NC State. On the offensive line, some interesting names to keep track of. Bo Stevens, 6'5", 310 pound, 5-year letterman out of Iowa. Also played D-line in his career, so he's going to look to play guard. We'll see if he holds up against some of these defensive tackles. And Jennings Dunker, also from Iowa, he's going to end up being a top 50 player. College offensive tackle, I think that probably moves to guard. I think Jalen Rivers last year from Miami ended up moving to guard. 6'4" and 7/8, 320 pounds. Very athletic, great feet. I don't know if he's got the length to play at tackle, arm length wise, but I think he's going to be given a shot this week, both inside and outside. He's played three positions, both guard spots and right tackle at Iowa. So he's got some position flexibility. And again, I think after this week and this weekend, he doesn't make it out of the top 50. Getting stunker. On the other side of the ball, defensive line, another couple of Penn State guys. Dennis Sutton came in at 6'5" and 3/8, 268 pounds. Good size. He's going to be a tweener, could be a 4-3 end, could be a 3-4 outside linebacker. And Zane Durant, 6 foot, 7/8, 290 pounds, undersized, 3 technique, pass rush, situational interior pass rusher. I think he's probably a 4th round guy right now. Let's see how he holds up this week. Lee Hunter, legitimately in the 1st round conversation from Texas Tech, 6'3.5", 320 pounds. Another Texas Tech guy, Romello Height. A lot of hype, a lot of talk around him. He came in today at 6'2" and 3/8, 234 pounds. So he was a defensive end at Texas Tech. I think he's going to end up being, because of the size, a 3-4 outside linebacker. A lot of pass rush moves. But he's going to be a 25-year-old rookie. So kind of an overage guy. We'll see how teams weigh his age versus his polish. Looking at the linebacker core, I think the headliner is probably Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. He came in at 6'1" and 1/8, 233 pounds. If he continues to be just all over the field and productive, I think he earns himself a solid 2nd round pick. Another guy I look to move up the boards is Scooby Williams from Texas A&M. Now, I had Scoob on here before he weighed in. He came in at 6'2" and 1/8, 217 pounds, 217. So a little light for me to play linebacker. He might be that box safety, nickel roll guy. It's going to be interesting to see how he matches in space this week. He's one of the guys to watch. And Caleb Elarms-Orr, out of TCU, 1st team All Big 12 guy, 6'1.5", 233 pounds, moves well. I think he's a guy that most people haven't seen or heard about. I think he starts to turn some heads this week and starts flying upwards. Defensive back room is going to be interesting. Hezekiah Massas, 6'1.5", 180 pounds, 1st team All ACC out of Cal. He'll get some good work this week. And then one of my favorites, guys to watch, Chris Johnson out of San Diego State, 6'125", 190 pounds. He was the Mountain West Co-Defensive Player of the Year, technician, and he's physical. So we will see how he plays against some of these receivers this week. All right, that was the national team. Let's take a look at the American team. Head coach is going to be Joel Thomas, who is the associate head coach and running backs coach of the New Orleans Saints. The offensive coordinator will be Scott Tolzien, also of the Saints. The defensive coordinator will be Peter Sermon, also from the Saints. And the special teams coordinator will be Kyle Wilbur from, you guessed it, the New Orleans Saints. The American team will also have coaches from the Jets, Colts, Lions, Buccaneers, Vikings, and Browns. So one of the area teams going to be looking at the players on the American team. And we'll start with the quarterback room. Love this quarterback room. Going to be really interested to see how they split these reps on Saturday. I'm going to start out with Kalen Green out of Arkansas. Talked about him last week. High upside, super athlete. Came in at 6'6", a legitimate 229 pounds, measured 10-inch hands. Really excited to see this guy spin the ball this week. Accuracy is going to be what I'm checking out from Kalen Green. Also on the American squad, Luke Altmaier out of Illinois, 6'1.25", 210 pounds. All I've heard from Altmaier is a guy that spins it better than you think, and he's bigger than you think when you see him in person. That's what I've heard about Altmaier. And then the guy who I was hoping coming in a little bit bigger, but you're just going to hear more questions about this guy, I think, than anything, because people actually like him, but they're trying to poke holes in his game, and that's Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. Played most of the season injured, no run game, bad offensive line. They brought in some receivers out of the transfer portal that weren't great. We'll see a couple of them here at the game. Both of them measured in at under 185 pounds, but let's get back to Nussmeier. He measured in today at 6'1", even, 202 pounds. So a little slight, but he's very tough. So we'll see how he spins the ball this week. He might be the most accurate quarterback here. I'm not going to say he has the best arm. He has a very good arm, but because Taylon Green and Sawyer Robertson are here, I don't think Garrett Nussmeier is going to blow the doors off of anybody. But that's your quarterback room. Those three guys: Green, Altmaier, and Nussmeier. Couple of the running backs, and these ones changed up. Mike Washington Jr. out of Arkansas is going to be here, 6 foot and 1/2 inch, 228 pounds. Adam Randall out of Clemson, 6 foot 2.5, 233 pounds. A couple of bruisers, and a late add was Jaden Ott out of Oklahoma, 5'10" and 7/8, 202 pounds. So you kind of have the thunder of Mike Washington and Adam Randall, and then the lightning of Jaden Ott, who 5-star guy, transferred to Oklahoma, was supposed to be the guy there this year, and then didn't really pan out. But a 3-down running back who I think this week has a chance to prove himself. I'm really glad he's one of these late ads, because he may be one of the more talented backs here in Mobile. Wide receivers for the American squad. And I want to start out by saying this. They had an emphasis on big receivers this year. Now, I said the LSU guys are here, and they are. They're on this side. 5'7", 175 pounds, and 5'10" and an eighth, and 183 pounds, something like that. Here's the guys I wanted to list. Malachi Fields, Notre Dame, 6'4", 218 pounds. Big time vertical ability. Taylon Green, Garrett Nussmeier, gonna have a good time throwing to Malachi Fields. Also on the other side, the Twin Towers, Jacoby Lane from USC, the other USC receiver, obviously Malachi Lemon, the award winner, the Fred Biletnikoff award winner, best receiver. But Jacoby Lane is here, USC, 6'4" and an eighth, 196 pounds, another guy with big time vertical ability. Really excited to see those guys on the outside. Another two I wanted to put on this list, just so you know and we're aware. Lewis Bond, first team All ACC, Boston College's all-time receptions leader, will be here. Came in at 5'11", 197 pounds, so solid frame. And Ted Hurst, a late add, but this is another guy who he's what they're calling a nudge guy, because when he kind of comes out to this field, scouts are like looking at the guy next to him going, hey, look at this guy, kind of nudging the guy next to him. Listen to the measurables here. 6'3" 1/4", 207 pounds. He put on 24 pounds since the start of the season. He came in at $183. He weighed in today at 207. So a legit 6'3" 1/4", 207 pounds. 1,000-yard receiver at both Valdosta State and Georgia State. Has a school record there for single-season touchdowns. He set that in 24. Had a real nice season in 25. Went over 1,000 yards this year as well. Ted Hurst, name to watch. Tight end room on the American squad. One of the deepest positions here in Mobile, and I'm going to lead it off by mentioning Josh Cuevas from Alabama. 6'3", 252 pounds. Started his career at Cal Poly, then went to Washington. Now finishing at Alabama. Still only 22. He's what you call an ascending player. Okay, so one to watch definitely this week. Succeeded at a lot of places, and still only 22. A lot of upside. Really, really looking forward. And good size, 250-plus pounds. Really good size for Cuevas. And Sam Roush, maybe my favorite guy coming into the week, from Stanford. 6'5" and 5/8", 259 pounds. Kind of a do-it-all type. Physical and productive. 119 career receptions. So if you're looking for a guy who can play all three downs, he can block in the run game. He also gives you plus in the receiving game. Sam Roush is a smart player from Stanford. Along the offensive line, another great group to watch. J.C. Davis out of Illinois. He was a 2-year starter at New Mexico State. Great feet. 6'4" 1/4", 335 pounds. He's one of the guys who said that he looked a little thin, but weighed in at 335. So if he's got a frame to go up from 335, that's interesting in and of itself there. One of my favorite guys as a projected player. He's not a second-round guy. He's not a third-round guy. Maybe you take him fourth round just because of the ceiling. Remember Carson Vinson last year? Max Ihanakor, 6'5" and 5/8", 325 pounds. Nigerian-born, came to the United States to play basketball. His first year in shoulder pads was 2021. This past year, he was second team All Big 12 at Arizona State. Sat his first year, played a couple of games his second year, starter his third and fourth year, and again, this year, second team All Big 12. His ceiling is sky high. He is raw, but my goodness, the fluidity of an athlete for the tackle position, this feels like a Philadelphia Eagles guy. He's huge, he's athletic, he comes out of nowhere, and he just turns into an all-pro. So I wanted to mention the name early. Max Ihenacore from Arizona State. Look for him on day 3. And finally, Jake Slaughter from University of Florida, measuring at 6'4.5", 318 pounds. Like I said, he's going to end up being a guard. I think he's a top 75 player. He's going to play for the American squad. On the defensive side of the ball, players to watch: TJ Parker from Clemson. 6'3" and 5/8", 263 pounds. A lot of eyes going to be on this guy. He's got all the traits. Did not put it together this past year at Clemson. There's got to be a reason why. The interviews are going to be really, really interesting from TJ Parker this week. I hope to have a whole lot more on what came out from Parker for next week's show. But he's a guy to watch on Saturday because of all those traits. Once they click, he's a top 15 talent who probably falls to the second round because he had a terrible year. Derek Moore and Rayshawn Benny, a couple of Michigan guys. Derek Moore is more the defensive end, 6'3" and a half, 254 pounds. I think he played a 43 end this year. I think he's more of a 34 outside linebacker. But he's 250 plus, so he's not bad. And Rayshawn Benny, 6'3", 296 pounds. Another guy, interior pass rush potential. Rayshawn Benny's a dude. He wins with strength. I don't know if he has many moves, but he's a man. So if he's able to develop anything this week, I think Rayshawn Benny may be a guy flying up boards by the end of it. Linebacker position is going to be interesting. Xavier Sori out of Arkansas, 6'1" and 7/8", 220 pounds. Not very big, but physicality, sideline to sideline range. Teams will value the athletic profile, even if the tape is inconsistent. High ceiling player. Let's see how he does with some NFL coaching this week. And then Jack Kelly, you're kind of a classic 2-down thumper, 6'1" and 1/8", 246 pounds. We're going to see where he gets drafted based on how well he moves in space this week. He's going to get drafted. He's going to be a heck of a special teams player. If he can run in space with some of these smaller running backs, I think he has a real chance to up his grade. And finally, let's finish out with some defensive backs from the American side, from the American squad, I should say. Davison Igbinosun from Ohio State, 6'2", 192 pounds, 4 career interceptions. This guy's played a lot of ball between Ole Miss and Ohio State, so high IQ player. Should test among the tops, among the defensive backs this week. I think he has a good showing. Kamari Ramsey from USC is one of my favorite safeties, 5'11" and 7/8", 199 pounds, so just a shade under 6'2". Versatile safety, range, instincts, modern sub-package value, fits today's hybrid DB roles, and I've heard poor man's Caleb Downs. So I like Kamari Ramsey, not as a high-end pick, but as a guy taken in the middle rounds who plays early, will find a role. And a guy who had just dropped out, I wanted to mention on today's show, unfortunately he's not going to be in the game, Emmanuel McNeil Warren from Toledo. He did drop out. Was really looking forward to watching him play, but alas, he will not be here. Last thing I got for you, I have my top 10 players with the most to gain. So these are just names I'm looking at. I've been looking at the Senior Bowl for a while. I don't know my exact formula for why I like guys, but these guys just seem to have like the classic riser profile to them. And it starts with, and I'll tell you why, Delby Lemieux from Dartmouth, small school guy. He's a tackle. He's going to end up playing center this week. 6'4", 295 pounds, Ivy League guy. We're going to test his power and movement. Why does he matter? He's a small school offensive lineman. Either they belong or they don't. And this week answers that question immediately. What to watch for with Delby? Well, his anchor and his hand placement in one-on-ones against NFL caliber power rushers. And again, he's moving from tackle to center. So big week for Delby Lemieux. Love the name. Another one, you're going to hear this guy's name coming up too. Charles Demings, cornerback from Stephen F. Austin. 6 foot, 185 pounds, long, fluid corner. Upside if he can stay physical. Why does he matter? The length and the movement are real. But this is where the traits meet NFL speed and size. So what to watch for is, can he mirror routes and stay in phase against elite separators and guys much bigger than him? He's going to have those 6'4" guys going against him. Coming from Stephen F. Austin, it'll be a good test for him. Another guy I want to watch is Romello Height. I mentioned him earlier, the edge from Texas Tech, 6'3", 240, versatile pass rusher, okay size, great burst. Why does he matter? He profiles as a sub-package disruptor who can make real money if he proves he's more than just a speed rusher. His floor is a situational pass rusher. What to watch is his get-off and ability to counter when his first move gets stalled. Like I said, he can take off around the edge. Let's see if he's got a counter move this week. Top 10 player to watch with a lot to gain in the wide receiver room. Vinny Anthony II, a wide receiver from Wisconsin. 6 foot, 190 pounds, balanced receiver, contested catchability, yak potential. The QB play at Wisconsin was not great. The production was limited by the quarterback, and I think the tape speaks for itself. Watch the separation, watch the ball tracking, watch the contested catches if given the opportunity. I think Vinny Anthony makes some money this week. Another one to watch, and I mentioned him earlier, Chris Johnson, corner from San Diego State, 6 foot, 185 pounds. Instinctive, solid length, great ball skills. 4 career interceptions, 2 of them he took back for touchdowns. Instinctual quarters who don't panic are hard to find, and they play early. What to watch for is his transitions, his eye discipline, and ability to locate the ball in phase against these big receivers. Another guy to watch, TJ Parker, the edge from Clemson. Power and length on the edge at 268 pounds. He's a top 15 talent, had a bad year. Bounce back candidate, the kind of player who can rewrite his narrative with a strong week in Alabama. What to watch for is going to be his one-on-one dominance and how consistently he wins those reps in practice and on Saturday. Getting down to the last 4 here of my top 10 players to watch, and I think as I went along, I got more and more in love with these guys. So you're starting to see my guys starting to take shape here. Player to watch for, defensive tackle out of Missouri, Chris McClellan. 6'3", 310 pounds, thick frame, plays with good power, good leverage, has pass rush ability, which is why I like him. Interior pass rush ability at 310 pounds. Why he matters? Big body interior defensive lineman, massive hands, 10, almost 11-inch hand span, and those 34-inch arms at 6'3". So he's going to move those guards who were tackles with short arms. So long arms at defensive tackle is big. What to watch for from McClellan? Power at the point of attack, ability to shed blocks in one-on-ones, and whether he shows any interior pass rush juice just beyond pure strength. Another player I think has a chance to really rise and solidify himself is Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker at Texas Tech. Only 6'1", 233 pounds, but he's a rangy linebacker who can make plays in multiple fronts. Why does he matter? He was productive. He was physical, and he's undervalued. The type of linebacker teams quietly trust. What to watch for will be his range, his processing speed against NFL caliber players, and his coverage awareness. He's great in the run game. Let's see how he does against crossing routes. Number 9 on my top 10 here of list of players to watch, Sawyer Robertson, quarterback from Baylor, came in at 6'3", 221. Legitimate, big frame pocket passer with functional mobility and real arm talent. Why does he matter? He's viewed as the most translatable, pure passer in the QB group. If he proves command, processing, and ball placement against NFL defenses, he separates himself immediately. What to watch for are the timing throws, intermediate accuracy, that 10 to 20-yard range, and how clean his mechanics stay when pressure shows up in the team periods. And finally, It's my man Ted Hurst, the wide receiver from Georgia State. I can't wait to watch him. Physical, long-bodied receiver with power forward traits at 6'3", now 207. Why he matters is small school wideouts don't get drafted on production. They get drafted on whether they belong physically, and Hurst has the frame to do that. He has the frame to force that conversation. What to watch for is going to be his releases versus press, his contested catch reps, and whether he can create functional separation beyond just living on body positioning. If you got a corner who can out jump you, it doesn't, if he's going to be in your pocket. Let's see how he does if he can create any separation whatsoever. So that's my top 10. The 2026 Panini Senior Bowl is scheduled for Saturday, January 31st at Hancock Whitney Stadium in Mobile, Alabama. Kickoff is set for 1:30 p.m. Central. That's 2:30 p.m. here Eastern Standard Time, and the game will be broadcast live on NFL Network and NFL Plus. Practices throughout the week, starting Tuesday tonight through Thursday, will also be covered on NFL Network. I want to thank you guys for joining us on the Draft Podcast tonight. I'll be back next week with more draft insights, Senior Bowl risers and fallers, and everything that you need to know as we track how this draft unfolds. I'm Paul Adamaszek, and this has been the Draft Podcast presented by the Gem City Sports Podcast Network, home for serious draft evaluation. I'll see you guys next week.